Hello, my name is Joel Larson, and I'll be reading from All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Remarque. It takes place during World War I from the German Army's point of view. All Quiet on the Western Front was released in 1929 and is considered one of the best books of European English literature since 1925. Erich Maria Remarque, 1898 through 1970, was himself in combat during World War I and was wounded 5 times, the last time very severely. During the post-war years, he taught briefly, became a stonecutter in the cemetery of Unserbrook, where he had been born in 1898, and served as an assistant editor of Sportsbild. Remarque came to the United States in 1939 and remained for the duration of World War II, but returned to Switzerland afterward. All Quiet on the Western Front made him rich and world famous at 33, but these consequences did not still his intense determination to concentrate in his fiction upon the worst horrors of the age, war and inhumanity, with which nearly all of his 9 subsequent novels have been concerned. This is an excerpt from All Quiet on the Western Front, pages 129 through 135. Suddenly, the shelling begins to pound again. Soon, we are sitting up once more with the rigid tenseness of blank anticipation. Attack, counterattack, charge, repulse. These are words, but what these things signify. We have lost a good many men, mostly recruits. Reinforcements have again been sent up to our sector. They are one of the new regiments, composed almost entirely of young fellows just called up. They have had hardly any training and are sent into the field with only a theoretical knowledge. They do know what a hand grenade is, it is true, but they have very little idea of cover, and what is most important of all, have no eye for it. A fold in the ground has to be quite 18 inches high before they can see it. Although we need reinforcement, the recruits give us almost more trouble than they are worth. They are helpless in this grim fighting area. They fall like flies. Modern trench warfare demands knowledge and experience. A man must have a feeling for the contours of the ground, an ear for the sound and character of the shells, must be able to decide beforehand where they will drop, how they will burst, and how to shelter from them. The young recruits, of course, know none of these things. They get killed simply because they hardly can tell shrapnel from high explosive. They are mown down because they are listening anxiously to the roar of the big coal boxes falling in the rear, and miss the light, piping whistle of the low, spreading daisy cutters. They flock together like sheep instead of scattering, and even the wounded are shot down like hares by the airmen. Their pale, turnip faces, their pitiful, clenched hands, the fine courage of these poor devils, the desperate charges and attacks made by the poor brave wretches who are so terrified that they dare not cry out loudly, but with battered chests, with torn bellies, arms and legs only whimper softly for their mothers and cease as soon as one looks at them. Their sharp, downy, dead faces have the awful, expressionless of dead children. Brings a lump to the throat to see how they go over and run and fall. A man would like to spank them, they are so stupid, and to take them by the arm and lead them away from here where they have no business to be. They wear gray coats and trousers and boots. But for most of them, the uniform is far too big. It hangs on their limbs, their shoulders are too narrow, their bodies too slight. No uniform was ever made to these childish measurements. Between 5 and 10 recruits fall to every old hand. A surprise gas attack carries off a lot of them. They have not yet learned what to do. We found one dugout full of them, with blue heads and black lips. Some of them in a shell hole took off their masks too soon. They did not know that the gas lies longest in the hollows. And when they saw others on top without masks, they pulled theirs off too, and swallowed enough to scorch their lungs. Their condition is hopeless. They choke to death with hemorrhages and suffocation. In one part of the trench, I suddenly run into Himmelstoss. We dive into the same dugout, breathless. We are lying one beside the other, waiting for the charge. When we run out again, although I'm very excited, I suddenly think, where's Himmelstoss? Quickly, I jump back into the dugout and find him with a small scratch lying in a corner pretending to be wounded. His face looks sullen. He is in a panic. He is new to it, too. But it makes me mad that the young recruits should be out there and he here. Get out! I spit. He does not stir. His lips quiver. His mustache twitches. Out! I repeat. He draws up his legs, crouches back against the wall, and shows his teeth like a cur. I seize him by the arm and try to pull him up, and he barks. This is too much for me. I grab him by the neck and shake him like a sack. His head jerks from side to side. You lump! You will get out! You hound! You skunk! Sneak out of it, would you? His eye becomes glassy. I knock his head against the wall. You cow! I kick him in the ribs. You swine! I push him towards the door and shove him out head first. Another wave of our attack has just come up. A lieutenant is with them. He sees us and yells, Forward! Forward! Join in! Follow! And the word of command does all my banking around could not. Himmelstoss hears the order, looks round him as if awakened, and follows on. I come after and watch him go over. Once more, he is the smart Himmelstoss of the parade ground. He has even outstripped the lieutenant and is far ahead. Bombardment, barrage, curtain fire, mines, gas, tanks, machine guns, hand grenades, words. Words. But they hold the horror of the world. Our faces are encrusted. Our thoughts are devastated. We are weary to death. When the attack comes, we shall have to strike many of the men with our fists to waken them and make them come with us. Our eyes are burnt. Our hands are torn. Our knees bleed. Our elbows are raw. How long has it been? Weeks? Months? Years? Only days. We see time pass in the colorless faces of the dying. We cram food into us. We run, we throw, we shoot, we kill, we lie about. We are feeble and spent, and nothing supports us but the knowledge that they are still feebler, still more spent, still more helpless ones out there who, with staring eyes, look up as gods that escape death many times. In the few hours of rest, we teach them. There, see that waggle top? That's a mortar coming. Keep down. It will go clean over. But if it comes this way, then run for it. You can run from a mortar. We sharpen their ears to the malicious, hearty audible sound of the smaller shells, that they are not easily distinguishable. They must pick them out from the general din by their insect-like hum. We explain to them that these are far more dangerous than the big ones that can be heard long beforehand. We show them how to take cover from aircraft, how to simulate a dead man when one is overrun in an attack, how to time hand grenades so that they explode half a second before hitting the ground. We teach them to fling themselves into holes as quick as lightning before the shells with instantaneous fuses. We show them how to clean up a trench with a handful of bombs. We explain the difference between the fuse length of the enemy bombs and our own. We put them wise to the sound of gas shells. Show them all the tricks that can save them from death. They listen. They are docile. But when it begins again, in their excitement, they do everything wrong. Hay Westhost drags off with a great wound in his back through which the lung pulses at every breath. I can only press his hand. It's all up, Paul, he groans as he bites his arm because of the pain. We see men living with their skulls blown open. We see soldiers run with their 2 feet cut off. They stagger on their splintered stumps into the next shell hole. A lance corporal crawls 1.5 miles on his hands, dragging his smashed knees after him. Another goes to the dressing station, and over his collapsed hands bulge his intestines. We see men without mouths, without jaws, without faces. We find one man who has held the artery of his arm in his teeth for 2 hours in order not to bleed to death. The sun goes down. Night comes. The shells whine. Life is at an end. Still, the little piece of convulsed earth in which we lie is held. We have yielded no more than a few 100 yards of it as prize to the enemy. But on every yard, there lies a dead man. Thank you for listening.